Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Dr. B Show. I interview the great Rod Colon. Rod is OG, as they say. He's the originator, the master of networking. And I thought I was the master. He's a super master of networking. We had an amazing conversation. He's an awesome human being. And I hope you enjoy the episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Dr. B Show. I'm here with the great Rod Colon. Rod, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for the great.
Anytime. I'm testing out my background. I'm a big wrestling fan, so I decided to put a couple of belts back here. So
Beautiful. Love it.
Thanks, man. So tell everyone about yourself.
Well, the thing about Rod Golong is that he's all about providing hope for our students and professionals and executives in their career journey. I mean, it's all about providing them hope, and really it's with the message of managing your career as a great enterprise. And I've been doing that for a couple of decades.
I love it. So I'm a big education. Thank you, Rod. I'm a big education guy. So I always start, no matter who I interview, right? So I always start with education. So you got your BA and MA from Georgian Court University. How did that experience help you in what you're doing today?
Well, I mean, really, from an educational standpoint, my first cut into education wasn't that great, and I left Pace University and went to work. Man, I started working and realized that as I was at J.P. Morgan, one of the senior managers says, "Rod, we love you, but we can't promote you." Says, well, why not? Well, you need a degree. You got to have a bachelor's. Doesn't matter what, but you have to have it. And sure enough, I did. And then in 6 years of night school, got my undergraduate degree in business administration while working at J.P. Morgan. And then many years later, I went back and to get my master's in an area that I love, which is theology.
I love it. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. So you've been consulting, you said, for 25 plus years. How did you actually stumble into that or get into that?
It really was as a human resource professional at J.P. Morgan, I realized there was just so much that I could do for individuals. We had the rules of the game internally in the organization, and I really, truly have always been wanting to be the advocate for the individual. And sometimes being the advocate for the individual when it just conflicted with the corporate policies. And I decided to leave and start my own practice. I just went to my manager and said, Mass has ended, go in peace. And I did. And it was that first year was really tough. And, starting my own practice and what to do, how to do it. But really, that was the real thing, is that for me has always been the individual, caring for individual, and everything that I pick up. And I work with individuals now, it's going to be from the standpoint of how can the individual benefit, from this particular theme or methodology or process. So for me, everything that I do is always geared to being the CEO of me. How can that individual best leverage, running this great enterprise of themselves?
I love it. I'll get into the CEO of me mindset in a minute, but For you, I guess those first couple of years, what was the biggest challenge? Was it like actually acquiring clients? Was it the process? Was it financial? Was it all the above? What was the biggest challenge as a new entrepreneur?
Yeah, I would say all of the above, where I left corporate and needed to find, a source of revenue quickly on my own. And having 3 kids in parochial school and a wife at home wasn't easy. So what I realized was I believed that my friends, so-called friends, would be there to help and support me. And what I realized that, what I brought to the table on the corporate setting is different when you're on your own. So people who you thought would be there to help and support you, they realized that you no longer had that, that background and what you were doing. And I had to work really hard. Those first 9 months of calling individuals, trying to work out, various types of deals. What can I do? How can I best leverage? And that's where I realized that I needed to look at what I do, not from humble Latino Rod from the Bronx, but man, I had to pick up my, put on my pants and put on my suit of, I am the CEO of Rod Colon Inc. I am supporting a beautiful family, which is my board of directors. And that's kind of where that whole mindset of CEO of me rang. And everything that I teach over the years has been something that I've implemented for myself first. And I realized that that it works. And typically what works for me has worked for others. So that's been the process. So I would say the hardest thing was generating revenues. But then in my first year, I tripled my income from where I was because of the work. And that's the beauty of being self-employed and running your own business, is that I can work as hard as I can for an organization, and there's just so much I can make. But I can work really hard for Rod, and the opportunities to generate income, if so, you can. You can manage that versus just the paycheck.
Agreed, 100%, and I'm living that myself now. So 100% that.
Not easy, and there are peaks and valleys, and good and bad, and it's just tough. But you know what? I can't blame people. I can't blame others about where I'm at. It's a man in the mirror.
Yeah,
it's the person in the mirror.
100%.
And if I want to go after some more business, hey, it's up to me. From that standpoint.
Agreed, 100%. You spoke about the CEO of me mindset. What is that? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, you're running a great enterprise. And so when I work with kids in middle school, and I ask them, you're the CEO of Carlos Inc. Enterprises. What does that mean? I'm the owner. It's me. I never thought I could own something. Well, we can. And the whole thing about being the CEO of me is, well, what is it that you do? And Heido, it's a question that many individuals have a difficult time in answering. What do you mean what I do? It says, you're running a business. So what is it that you do? What is it that you're great at? Oh my goodness, great. And if we're Latinos about it, or individuals of color, that really is in conflict with our culture and our upbringing and what we grew up with. But as a business owner, we get to the core of who we are and say, this is who I am. These are my values. This is what I do really well. I can't do everything on my own. I'm going to leverage this wonderful network, La Familia, to help, to support, because I'm blessed with certain skills, but I also know that there are other skills that I don't have. And we work best when we have all of those things identified in our organization, which is your board of advisors, your mentors, your advocates, your connections. I mean, they're going to be people who are going to think completely different than you are, but they're going to provide you with some great advice and value.
I love it. Absolutely love it. You also been involved with HISPA since 2016. Ironically, the same year I joined Prosponic as a volunteer management and Latinos in college coordinator. Can you tell us about that?
HISPA, my goodness, what an organization. Hispanics Inspiring Students' Performance and Achievement. And just this absolutely fantastic. So prior to 2016, I was certainly a volunteer for Dr. Yvonne Diaz-Clay, the beautiful founder and CEO of HISPA, and really is the opportunity to leverage our experience, who we are, through our stories, in helping our middle school kids, Latino kids all around the United States, and saying, well, if Rod could do it, if Dr. Borgia can do it, if others can do it, hey, I can do it too. And we're planting seeds into our future. And HISPA has expanded into many different areas. One that I absolutely love is our Latinos in College program, which gets me to various colleges throughout the country and working with our Latino kids and helping them, in the management of their careers and connecting them with wonderful professionals That's just another passion of mine.
I love it. I love it. And as a role model, it's amazing to give back. So I can attest to that. So you also been involved as in the D&I space as a senior executive coach, as far as workshop leader and consulting with Inclusion Inc. So what do you, my question is to begin that conversation as we pivot is, what do you do to change the mindset for an organization to be more inclusive?
The whole thing on diversity, equity, and inclusion is
Great book,
recent.
By the way. We'll talk in a minute about
that. A recent letter that is the B. It's the belonging.
Yeah.
Is from that standpoint. So we all want to feel as if we belong. I'm having a son here. Hold on a second.
Sure.
It's my next door neighbor. He's doing some work. I'm saying, what is that sound? But no, with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really it's the word belonging. We all want to feel that we belong. And as I take and I work as a consultant for various organizations doing that work on the corporate side, that's fantastic. And there's a lot of, wonderful programs that got out of it. But to me, the core is the DEIB to the individual as they're managing their CEO of Me Inc. enterprise. And so when we think of diversity, what's diversity? It's everyone, every mindset, every thinking, every aspect. Everything is diversity, right? So I remember back in the good old days when they would say, "Hey, Rod, can you help me find a diverse candidate?" I would know, the bias that they had back then. But now is that what I say? Well, what do you mean? Diversity is everything, right? Yeah. So inclusion, right, is to make sure that we all have a voice, right, and having an avenue of sharing that, from that perspective. And really the equity piece is giving the individual the opportunity to succeed in their way. So for Rod, who has a certain mindset and a certain way of going about things, I may need a different avenue to be, from that equity standpoint, where for Dr. Borgia, it'll be a little bit different. So the thing is that I remember going back, and I'm 60 years old, and back in the command and control days, right? It's like, by your command, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, those days are gone. Those days are gone. Is that the whole thing is that we can be when we are at our best, when we feel we belong. We're going to work harder, efficiently. And I always talk about the Sunday evening test. How do you feel about what you're going to do on Monday morning on Sunday night? What are you going to do? How do you feel? And for many, that Sunday night test is not so good. And that's kind of really at my core is that my goal is to help individuals on Sunday night feel good about Monday morning.
That's true. We all feel different, right? Sunday versus Monday, depending on who you are, right? Versus Friday, right? Friday, 5:00. Oh, happy hour somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. the fear and the fret and the stomach that just crunches to say, oh, I have to deal with this type of person. I have to do this type of role. You really want to get to the B of diversity, equity, and inclusion is the belonging.
No, agreed, 100%. All about the belonging, which segues into the book, which I flashed for those who are going to watch the video version of it, right? So I'm going to read an excerpt, and I just wanted to get your opinion of what can we do, your opinion, to reprogram our bias brains, right? So the biggest hurdle we found, this is an excerpt from the book, was that so many of our brain processes occur at the unconscious level, and that as human beings, we are wired to select for our in-group, right? The good news is as we as individuals can do not only to override that wiring, but to possibly change it to better serve us, thus align our decisions with our diversity, equity, inclusion goals, hence what you was talking about before. So what can we do to better reprogram our biased brain?
Well, the first thing is to be aware of it. Yeah. We are all biased. If we're human and we have a brain, and we all do, we're biased. Bias is not good or bad. Bias is just the way our brains that are managing 2 million bits of information at any given time is a shortcut. And look, are we thinking about how our heart is beating or is our blood pressure? No, these are things that are just done automatically by our brain. But when it comes to people, our shortcuts, our biases may not always be in line. And when it comes to being, and it wants to secure us, it wants to help us from our fears and our frets and our things. Our brains, going back to the good old prehistoric days, is about managing, being careful and being safe and keeping us safe. Well, that keeping us safe then becomes from the bias of, well, I want to be safe with the people that I know, that I respect and I appreciate. Well, that only comes from, our biases, our culture, our nurturing, our biology, all those things from there. So the key thing is that what the book talks about is the power of the pause, right? Our minds can in 7 seconds can identify 11 aspects of an individual's by just seeing them, by their, color, skin, and socioeconomic level, religion, all various things. Our minds can automatically. Now, is it true? No. Is it factual? Not at all. No. But the thing is that the power of the pause will allow you to just step back, hold, reflect on why you're thinking. Why am I thinking that way? Why am I fearing that way? Why am I uncomfortable with this person? We have this wonderful slide that we show a picture of 9 individuals, right? Just 9 individuals in their most just, chilled space, their most relaxed way. And many of them will think about, I'm not sure if I'm going to work. In the initial impression is I'm not sure if I'm going to deal with this person. Now you put those same individuals in a very professional looking way, and it's a different story. These are our biases. It's look, we all have it. It's not, we all have it. The key is to be aware of it. And why am I battling it? Why am I battling that? Why am I uncomfortable? Why am I not, wanting to be in that group? Why do I, we walk into a room and the first thing we do is look for people that we know. Why? Because we're comfort level there. Why are we not going there? Now, there are people, Dr. Borgia, is that are naturally inclusive. What is it about them? They'll go and meet with the individuals. They'll talk or whatever, and not an issue. They're just open. You see them. They have friends from all different backgrounds. It's not an issue. So the thing is that we want to identify what are the best practices, that these individuals do, that we can help in all that. And the beautiful thing is that since it's part of the brain. Since it's part of the brain, we can actually work that piece out and really talk about that type of stuff, which is all great in that. So looking forward to that. It's amazing the power of our brains.
No, 100%, 100%. We're winding down. So just I wanted to ask your opinion on this as well. So organizations look to be more of an inclusive organization, right? So according to Bilton mentions how diverse management has shown increase of revenue by 90%. That's pretty cool. So why do you think that is, and what can organizations do to be more inclusive?
With all the organizations that we've had great success, it starts with the leadership of the organization. If this is something coming out of human resources or out of the diversity, equity, and inclusion department, but it has no sponsorship or advocacy from the top at the most senior levels of the organization, it in most cases just check the box. But when you have the senior leadership that goes through the program, go through the process, appreciates that for themselves personally, and can be at the sessions that the others will be at, right? And it's almost like trick. It starts from the top and you move it down that way, It's kind of where it works. But if it starts at a junior level or not sponsored by the highest sections of an organization, it has no legs. And just think of it. Think of all the different diversity, equity, inclusion, chief diversity, equity, inclusion officers. You talk about musical chairs. Can they hang out for a couple of years at one place? It's constant motion.
Yeah.
Right. So that within itself is, what's the issue? What's the problem? What's going on? Why are individuals always leaving? And the thing here is that, and as you dig deeper into it, is that the buy-in from senior leadership, there's frustrations there's moving on. So I would say the number one thing is you have to have sponsorship at the most executive senior levels of an organization, because if they buy in and they see it personally and sharing their own personal stories, the rest of the organization says, one, I better get involved. I better get this, because at the most senior leadership or my butt's out of here, because this is the way we're thinking. This is now part of our mission, vision, values, and all that. So that's one part, how we're motivated. And the other one, you just get better teams and better results. I mean, just statistics shows that when you have a group of diverse, inclusive individuals that feel that they belong, that's the key, will outperform any homogeneous group.
100%. I love it. And the numbers don't lie. So numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So winding down. So one of my final questions is companies trying to implement, DE&I best practices, what should be their first step?
One is do their research, do their homework, find what's the philosophy, the methodology, the process that will best engage their organization so that they can execute the plan. What I love about what I'm working on now is not just a gut feel that it's the right thing to do, but it has science behind it. So when you talk about intrinsic inclusion in our brains and how we actually work it in our minds, and how can an individual who suffers a stroke is able to begin to relearn how to use that arm or how to use certain parts of their bodies is that there is science behind this, the wiring. So the wiring that we have of our biases, right, can be unlearned and relearned in a various way because of science and working with that. So, you have individuals say, yes, this is the right thing to do, let's do it. But there are many individuals that are not motivated by, tell me why. Well, the fact is that when you get science involved in how this is all done and worked on, it's powerful. So I would say that for the organization that looks at DEI&B, I would say incorporate the science piece of DEIB as well, because another area of specialty that I work in is the HBDI, which is Ned Herman's system of the 4 quadrants of the mind, which is we all have preferences. We do all 4 areas: planning and organizing and data and our interpersonal relationships and thinking of the future. But we have preferences. What's our preferences? What's our preference? And by incorporating the preferences with the sciences, with DEIB, it's a very powerful, program.
Thank you so much. Tell us about your podcast.
Own Your Career. Yeah, we've been doing it. It's been eight good solid years. We're branding it now to have Own Your Career, but now for college students, and we're kind of helping them out. So kind of building that for the next thing. It's been 8 wonderful years of over 300 shows where we help individuals in the whole aspect of owning their career, being the CEO of me. So we started out, many years ago on just the mechanics side, the networking, the value propositions, the interview, the process. Then we added some guests. Then we added a behavioral specialist over the last couple of years with that. It's been a great run. And now my next way of, rebranding, repackaging, remarketing is that from a perspective of, let's hear from our millennials. Let's hear from our Gen Zs. Let's incorporate our Gen As in it as someone who loves to teach and guide and help and support. Let's get the next generation, into the program.
I love it. Where can people find more information about you, or how can they contact you?
LinkedIn. That's my baby. So matter of fact, the best way to reach me is, Rod Colon. Look me up. It's Rodrigo Rod Colon on LinkedIn. They can reach me at rod@rodcolon.com. They could go to my website, rodcolon.com. But folks can always reach me, and I welcome all to, I call it La Familia, my network, and always happy to help.
Rod, thank you. I wanted to have you on my show for a while. I'm glad we kind of spoke about everything: education, Rod from the Bronx, DE&IB, a little bit of everything. So thank you, Rod, for being on my show.
No, great. Thank you so much. My pleasure, and continued success, Dr. Heidelberg.
Thank you. Thank you. Rod Colon, everybody.
Everybody, that wraps up the episode with Rod Colon. He's an amazing human being. He is a super duper networking king, networking master. I learned a lot from Rod. He's an awesome human being, and hopefully love to do some stuff together at some point in some capacity. But hey, it's an amazing episode. Love Rod. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.